Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. I am Keith Lane, your producer here at TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona. We're going to start off this week with a little news item.
Well, everybody, break out your magic cloaks and your magical wands, because somebody has finally been cast to play the Mystic Mage. And I'm not talking Harry Potter. No, I am talking the movie that we've all been kind of anxious about. Marvel's entry into magic, that is Doctor Strange. After talks had fallen with Joaquin Phoenix, all eyes turned to Benedict Cumberbatch, especially after his amazing awards performance as Alan Turing in The Imitation Game. Well, so now we finally have it. It is Benedict Cumberbatch who will be playing Doctor Strange. So I now ask all of you, our listeners, what is your thought on this? Is Benedict Cumberbatch a little too young to play someone who's as not aged, but someone who is as seasoned as Stephen Strange is? Does he have the acting chops to take on the part? Or are we all just suffering from batch overload? You let us know. Back to you.
All right, you can let us know on our website at tggeeks.com or the2gaygeeks.com. And you can also check us out on our Facebook page, TG Geeks Webcast, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That's 469-844-3357. So, our regular show this week, after that news item, we're going to talk about shows that we didn't talk about in our season or our fall preview, not fall preview, but our fall TV lineup, or at least our TV lineup. We've added a couple of things that we are watching and something that's been recommended to us. We're also going to do a wrap-up of a show that has just completed. And then we're going to talk about a couple of movies, and then we'll have a special upcoming shows and a special treat for you. So, first thing, things that we've picked up or that had not come back when we did our fall TV lineup, and that was Elementary. So Elementary was the first item that that had not come back. So we want to talk about Elementary first.
This was one that was highly anticipated. This show fails to disappoint. It has a marvelous cast. And last season, I wouldn't call it ended on a cliffhanger, but it definitely had a bit of a turn in which our hero Sherlock was given a job working for MI6 as a special consultant. So he was leaving New York City and going back to London, thereby leaving his associate, Watson, to kind of start up her own business, which she had been doing. She was living on her own at this point. So she kind of took over the role that Sherlock had, serving as consultant for the New York Police Department. The series does a bit of a time shift. And next thing we know, Sherlock is back in New York City after having served some time with MI6 rather unsuccessfully, and he has a new protege. I mean, what are our thoughts about how that is going?
Very interesting. I thought it was interesting when they opened the show and Joan was doing the consulting with the New York Police Department, and then all of a sudden here is some mystery, and then all of a sudden Sherlock shows up and he has a new protege or a new
he's training somebody.
I wouldn't say protege. I would think it is more like a
colleague,
a stand-in for Joan. I think
possibly
more like
it might be at this moment, because one thing that we do hear Sherlock actually talk about is when he admits to Joan that when he's at his best is when he's actually training someone
or partnering with somebody.
Right.
I think that's collaborating with somebody. And I think the collaboration, as we're seeing as the show goes on, is more about the collaboration with Joan. And yes, he is a good teacher. However, when Joan comes back in the picture, it's more about those two, which it should be, but I think that the new gal's getting a little bit of a shaft. I think that that's going to play into the rest of this season.
Which is true, and kind of sad at the same time, because initially we are all kind of thinking she's going to completely burn out. She'll fail, and at some point there's going to be some kind of reconciliation between Sherlock and Watson, and they're going to come back together and working as a team. But that's not where this series has gone. They've kind of surprised us a little bit. The accomplice, the associate, she's actually kind of shown that she has some very good insights, and she has helped to solve a case here and there. So
it's sort of becoming a menage a trois.
It is a bit of a it's a detective menage a trois at this point. Very unusual. There was a little bit of testiness between her and Joan, and now that's kind of beginning to settle down a little bit. They're beginning to kind of work well as a threesome, but as if this is really going to be based on the Sherlock Holmes series, we know it's really about Holmes and Watson. Right. So at some point, she's going to have to leave the show. And because she's really beginning to prove her worth, I can't help but now fear that she's in for some very dire straits down the road. I mean, there's nothing to indicate that yet, but I can't help but wonder that she's got a rather dark future ahead of her.
Yeah, I really don't want them to kill her, because it would just be too...
It's almost cliche.
Cliche, yeah, and I don't want to see cliche in this series, because it's not. This series is not cliche. Well, it is in a certain sense, but it's not. It doesn't that kind of cliche.
No, it doesn't rely on those kinds of cliches. Doesn't rely on those kinds of tropes, which has been one of the great things that has set this series apart. And I'd like to see it continue in that vein.
It's either going to be she's going to go back or somebody's going to pick her up, or she's going to go off on her own, or she's going to become one of their nemesis.
Now, that's an interesting thought. What if she becomes like a protege to, say, like Moriarty?
That would be interesting. That would be very interesting.
That could be far out, especially since Moriarty is also a female in this series.
Right.
That could add some very interesting dynamics, and then at the same time, maybe possibly help propel Watson more into the forefront, because she would then be able to have the advantage of being able to see things through a feminine perspective, if you will.
Right. Yeah, I think it's we're in for a treat this year.
Well, as again, they don't disappoint, and every season has been a treat so far.
Yep, it certainly has. So the next thing that we picked up that we had not watched before, we couldn't have, we couldn't have watched it before, was Constantine.
This was a show that I was very, very excited about. I love supernatural, sorcery type shows. I didn't know very much about John Constantine, the character. I believe he was I think he was introduced in the DC Comics, and please forgive me, all you comic book geeks out there, because this was a title that I was not all that familiar with, but I believe it was Hellblazer. And he's a detective who deals with the occult, but he's supposed to be, according to all the literature that I've read, he's supposed to be a very competent sorcerer, kind of putting him maybe on somewhere in between Dr. Fate and the Phantom Stranger from the DC universe. So I was very much looking forward to this. So far, DC has done, especially since starting with Arrow, they've done a really great bang-up job with their television properties. So I was very excited to see what we might get out of this, even though this was not a CW show. This was going to be NBC, so it'll probably have a different production team. But I was still very curious as to how it was going to be. And I will admit, it was not quite what I expected. It kind of felt like a cross between, say, especially the pilot. The first episode kind of felt like a cross between The Exorcist and maybe just like Kolchak.
Right.
On that kind of level.
Especially with his raincoat or whatever, his
the trench coat.
Trench coat. There we go. Trench coat. Thank you. My brain packed up there for a moment. But yeah, it was interesting. And while we've only watched, 2 episodes now?
No, we've seen 3.
3 episodes, and we're kind of behind. We're kind of behind on a lot of things that we're watching because we started our Christmas watching recently.
And we've had the holidays.
And we had the holidays, which I cooked a lot for. So we
were
haven't
busy.
done a lot of watching. We have watched 3 episodes of it. I'm willing after the 3 episode, because that's our 3-episode test. And I'm willing to continue on with it.
It hasn't pushed us away yet. I mean, and I kind of get the feeling that already they're planting seeds for a big arc. Now, granted, I love sorcery type shows. Some of my favorite comic books have always been the magical ones: the Phantom Stranger, the Spectre, Doctor Strange from Marvel, Dr. Fate from DC. These comics I just really gravitated towards heavily as a teenager. So naturally, I want to be able to see Constantine be able to do more of the sorcery. All we really got in the first episode was him acting. He was like reciting a lot of Latin, and it felt like he was acting more like a priest, if anything else, at that point. So I'm kind of interested to see where he may go. There's some interesting seeds being planted regarding how he's doomed to hell.
Right.
So
how is he going to redeem himself?
How will he redeem himself? Will he redeem himself?
Or semi-redeem himself, I think.
So, and they're already introducing some semi-regulars to be a part of the show. They've dipped into the DC mythology a little bit right from the very get-go when we see Dr. Fate's helmet, which, of course, I nerded out in a big way. So it'd be interesting to see where this goes. It passed the 3-episode sniff test so far. So yeah, we're definitely going to stick it out. I have a feeling that once this show really gets its pieces into place, that it's going to just really start to run. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Okay. And the next thing that actually we thought had ended, and then all of a sudden surprise, here it is again. It's The Mentalist, and that's the last 4, 5, 6 episodes that they filmed before they killed the series. I was a little I was disappointed in the last season just because of where they went, and they really should have stopped when they killed Red John. But we stuck out the last season, although there were some episodes it's like, oh my God, what the heck is this? And we just watched the episode from last week, and it was okay. I'm still kind of withholding judgment. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to salvage the rest of it, but they probably did the rest of the episode so they could syndicate it.
It's very possible. I think you're right. I think the stories may not exactly have the kind of weight that the series first had. And of course, in the beginning, when we have to remember that when the series very, very first started, that it kind of went in a totally new direction. We were being inundated with all these crime lab scientific type television shows with the CSIs and the NCIS. And all of a sudden to now kind of really go away from that and to have your primary consultant be this fraud, if you will, as a mentalist who was just excellent at being able to read people. It was a whole new look on the crime procedural, and then of course to have the big arc about as to why he is serving in this capacity, namely being that he wants to seek justice for his murdered wife and daughter. So it was a totally unique kind of show we were getting. And then after being on for 6 years, I mean, okay, the novelty starts to wear off just a little bit. You can only go so many different directions with this talent that our lead character, Patrick Jane, has. And then, of course, as you pointed out, with the solving of who Red John is and his elimination, the series did kind of take a rather anticlimactic turn.
Yeah, and it kind of angered me the way they wrapped
well, yeah,
up
the way they wrapped up Red John
anyway,
was
we've
weak.
already talked about that.
Yeah, the way they wrapped up Red John was weak. So, yeah, we get this new story. Okay, it's maybe not the most original. There were a couple of story points that I thought were all right. But I think what really is now helping to keep the series on life support because that's exactly what it is at this point. I mean, it's not, the series is no longer alive. I mean, this is its final season. We already know that. So this is its final
and it's only
farewell.
like 6 episodes, I think, is all they filmed.
Right. But what is really making it work are the characters.
Right.
They have a very interesting cast. Introduced a brand new FBI agent into the show right from the first episode, and her dynamic with Jane, I think, is very interesting. Patrick's relationship with the former CBI chief, Lisbon, that's taken some interesting turns. So it's now more of a character-driven show instead of a plot-driven, I think, at this point. So I think if we look at it from that vantage point, it'll be okay.
Yep. Okay, so now.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh boy. All right. We were recommended a show, and from a voicemail from our good friend Crazy Joe over at Megapodzilla, and we'll just say right now, we know, Joe, that you're going to be upset with us, and you're probably going to flame us.
Joe, you're going to want to punch us in the junk for this one, I'm telling you.
But it just oh boy, Community. That's all I can say.
That's about it.
It just kind of, in my mind, it kind of went. It was interesting. I will have to say, and thank you, Joe, for recommending that. We do appreciate it, and it had some moments, but it's not up our alley.
No,
we gave it 3 episodes. We have a 3-episode test before you jump up and down and say you got to give it 5. No. If we don't do it in 3, if it doesn't do it for us, and it was a hard sell to even watch the 3rd episode. I'm sorry to say.
It had it had moments that I thought were enormously strong, and the cast is incredible. I'm going to give them that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great cast. I love Joel McHale. I really do. I think his acting was very, very strong, but some of the storylines and the developments I thought were a bit questionable, and sometimes I felt like I was wading through some very bizarre stuff before I could get to something that I thought was really the heart of that particular episode. So and then sometimes, even after they give us what is essentially the real jewel that the episode has to offer, it then got kind of covered up in some rather bizarre behavior by some of the other cast people, which in my mind actually kind of diminished what I thought would have been a really beautiful moment. So with all of that, it wasn't quite working for me. I mean, I remember we heard in your episode that there seems to be these 2 camps of Community versus Big Bang Theory, and here we're gonna get flamed again, because most of our geeky friends have already come out and said how much they hate Big Bang Theory, and Keith and I are kind of in the minority on that one, and saying we like that show.
We're always in the minority on some things. Well, not always, but we are in the minority on a lot of things. Things that we like, people just absolutely hate, and things that we don't like,
people seem to enjoy a lot.
People just absolutely love.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to throw this out, and no discussion is necessary, but Frozen.
Enough said.
It was good, but it could have been better.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Joe, for being our first voicemail. Yay!
Yay! Golf claps around.
Okay, now for the one that we're going to talk about on the wrap-up. Doctor Who.
Who? Okay.
The Doctor.
The Doctor.
That I may never ever watch again.
Wow. Yeah. Oh boy. Now, anybody who's listened to me on Fusion Patrol know exactly what my thoughts were on this past season. Keith?
There were only 2 episodes that were reasonable. Everything
Ouch.
else.
Ouch. Wow, reasonable.
Reasonable. Yeah. I was so disappointed in the season, and as I said, and previously, I think we did on the 50th. We talked about on the 50th, and the fact that earlier in the season, I had almost threatened to stop watching Doctor Who because they had deviated so far from. Yeah, I'm a classic Doctor Who person, but they've just gone cuckoo with it. And
well, one of the things,
I'll watch the Christmas episode, and if it doesn't do something for me, I may not be around for the next season.
I mean, I don't know if I could actually go so far as to say that I'll never watch it again, but I will definitely be holding my breath. One of the, and you're right.
I might have to hold my breath to watch them, or hold my nose.
Yeah, maybe hold your nose. One of the things that I talked about with Doctor Who, and I'm with you on this one. You know, I am a big fan of the classic Who, and I'm not saying we need to be remaking John Pertwee or Tom Baker shows.
Absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. But I think there needs to be maybe some kind of concerted effort to try and maybe recapture the spirit of those earlier shows.
As we've talked about, and I know that you and Eugene have talked about this on Fusion Patrol, and a lot of people have discussed this, is when we went from a multi-episode arc, shall we say, we're going to do 6 episodes to tell a story, to telling a story in a 1-hour episode. I think that's where it fell apart. And I think it fell apart from the very beginning when Doctor Who came back. While a lot of the episodes and a lot of, the last several seasons have worked in 1-hour episodes, the better ones were the 2-parters.
Yeah.
So I think that they're trying, if they maybe stretch the season out to 12 episodes instead of 6, and then gave us more 2-parters, it might be better. Or if
better pacing, better development.
Yeah. Because that seems to be where the problem lies, is they throw too much at us in a 1-hour episode. So we lose a lot of who the Doctor really is. Did you notice that? Who the Doctor?
Oh, that's really clever. I got to remember that. Another thing that really bothered me with this past season has been this horrible angst that has been going on with the Doctor. Am I a good man? Or there's no such thing as heroes. I mean, this whole big drama that was going on between the Doctor and Clara really kind of turned me off. Now, there's been a lot of talk about how Moffat wanted to kind of go in a new direction. He wanted to make this season about Clara. And I'm sorry, but I have to come back and say this. The show is called Doctor Who. It is not called Clara Osgood.
Well, and when I think of Clara now, this is what I think.
Exterminate. I could really do away with her at this point. And sadly,
I liked her at the
in
very
the beginning. She was awesome.
Oh my God, she was awesome.
She was fantastic when we first meet her.
And then all of a sudden, this season, it's like, who are you?
And what really bothers me is here's this person who was the impossible girl. She manages to save the Doctor by entering every aspect of his timeline, and yet she has no understanding of who he is or how he operates. Yes, this is a new regeneration. We've acknowledged that, but there are certain deviations that we've been seeing with the Doctor, which I felt were completely inappropriate, for one. And with everything that Clara knows, she should have some kind of understanding that how the Doctor is motivated in all the things that he does, whatever his actions are to try and get to any kind of resolution. She should have an understanding as to what is driving him. And instead, she was questioning him at every turn. And it kept bringing back this, I don't think you're really a good man kind of thing. And that I found to be highly disturbing, highly distracting. I mean, if you look at past Doctor regenerations, yes, every single one of them did have some kind of little post-regeneration fallout, but those were always wrapped up in rather short order so that we could then just get right back to the meat of the story, and that is your problem of the week. Let us solve the problem of the week. Instead, the problem of the week became all about the Doctor and Clara. And whatever little plot contrivance they had to deal with always ended up taking a back seat. And I really, really disliked that. And I just want to ask, what were the 2 episodes that you thought were reasonable?
Oh, what was the Mummy on the Train?
Mummy on the Orient Express.
Yes, and the bank robbing episode.
Oh, Time Heist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked Time Heist a great deal. That had sort of an Ocean's 11 kind of feel to it. Mummy on the Orient Express is my absolute favorite episode of the season.
Because it was more classic Who.
It really felt like classic Who. And the Doctor did prove that he could be a hero. He did something very heroic by taking the place of that one woman who was the next target by the mummy. Everything that happened in that episode was all about, here is our threat. How do we address the threat? It was really exciting. And sadly, the episode after that, Flatline, written by the same writer, I thought was a good episode too. But right after that, the series then just started to wallow again. And the way it ended was nothing but just disappointment upon disappointment upon disappointment. And that's not a great way to end this series that started off just a little bit better than underwhelming.
Right. Okay, well, let's take a break for just a moment, and we'll be right back.
Well, for all you sci-fi, fantasy, comic book fans out there, this coming weekend will be the first ever Phoenix ComiCon Fan Fest, December 12th through the 14th at the University of Phoenix Stadium, home of the Arizona Cardinals football team in Glendale, Arizona. Among some of the guests will be Paul McGann and Colin Baker from Doctor Who, veteran sci-fi actor Michael Biehn, Warehouse 13's Eddie McClintock, Farscape's and Stargate's SG-1's Ben Bowder, and Arrow's John Diggle himself, David Ramsey. The Fan Fest is being held for the first time ever during the awesome winter season that the greater Phoenix Valley is famous for, and we will be there as well. For more information, just go to phoenixcomiccon.com and look for us, as we'll be wearing our TG Geeks t-shirts, and we hope to see you all there.
Welcome back. Now we're going to talk about upcoming shows that have not aired yet. And first up is CSI Cyber.
This I'm very intrigued with. I wasn't sure they were actually going to be doing another CSI series, considering that both Miami and New York got canceled. And then finding out that CSI Vegas, as we call it, is not doing all that well in the ratings, and it might be ending its very, very long reign on television. But this was a show that got introduced. Their main character, she was introduced last season, and the way they did it, and I think we may have talked about this on a previous show.
Yeah, we did, but go ahead and talk about it.
The way they introduced her. Now, for anybody who hasn't seen the CSI shows, any of them, their big connecting thread has been some kind of theme or a song by The Who. For example, for Crime Scene Investigator Vegas, that was Who Are You by The Who. Actually by The Who. Let's see, CSI New York had Baba O'Reilly, and I can't remember what the heck the Miami one was. And so we're introduced to this one character. She comes in. She is a specialist working with computer data. That is her field of expertise. And when she was introduced, they gave us yet another Who song, just as she walks onto the scene. And I remember I turned to Keith and I said, watch out. This is a backdoor pilot. I guarantee it. And it wasn't like a month later that it was announced that CSI Cyber had been given the green light.
And we had even talked about that before they had given the green light.
Yeah, we discussed it.
Then he said, I told you so, I told you so.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally I was reading online that CSI Cyber had been given the green light. It was going to be coming on as, I don't want to call it a mid-season replacement because that doesn't sound right. It's coming on as a winter. That's when its big premiere is going to be. So it'll probably be getting a half season, but it's coming on nonetheless in January. And this is a show that I'm very intrigued to see.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
It could be very interesting. It's going to be taking a slightly different turn in that it's going to be working really with computer crimes. I mean, it's not going to be very Matrixy, although you never know with these people.
And God forbid that it should be Scorpionish. Oh my God, what a horrible.
God, you had to bring that up again.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I want to gag now.
Yeah, the gift that keeps on giving. So yes, we have that to look forward to in January of 2015.
And next.
Oh, this one I'm very excited about.
Agent Carter.
A lot of people are really, really excited about this show. And let's just say that I remember when it was first being talked about, it came about as part of a Marvel one episode standalone short on one of the movies.
One of the one shots.
It was a one shot on one of the Marvel films. I want to say it was Thor 2, but I could be mistaken.
Oh, that makes my head Thor.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Rumpum, you need a rim shot on that.
I got a rim shot.
You got a rim shot?
Where's my rim shot now? I've lost it. There it is.
Thank you. But it was such an amazing one-shot short, all about Agent Carter and the days immediately following the end of World War II and the believed demise of Captain America, Steve Rogers, who had become the love of her life, and how she is trying to not just pick up the pieces of her own life, but how, if anybody who's seen the one shot, she gets picked to be the co-head of this new agency along with Howard Stark. It's a little group by the name of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think we may have heard of it.
S.H.I.E.L.D.?
S.H.I.E.L.D.? S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah. Not Hydra. No.
Hail Hydra.
That was another show.
Oh, okay.
So she's coming in. This will be her show, and they've actually done something very clever. They've actually introduced her, Agent Carter, in a couple of flashbacks in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thus far. And what they're doing is they've actually been kind of trying to tie in her story with what's happening in present day Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And we really don't know exactly what's going to be on with Agent Carter, but there's some indication that they're going to be further developing this story that we've been given so far. In addition to what kind of challenges does a woman have to undergo trying to put together some sort of a spy organization, if you will, in the 1950s, where women were, well, let's be honest, they were pretty much thought of as second-class citizens at the time. They were not being given the fair breaks. They had a lot of adversity and roadblocks that they had to contend with. So now we get to see how Peggy Carter has to deal with these things while at the same time trying to put together this organization to help combat the evil that is still existing in the world, namely Hydra. So that's going to be coming on, and I think this is a brilliant, brilliant move. Everybody's been talking about it, so I'm merely going to be echoing what everybody else has said. But again, I think this is a brilliant move on ABC's part. Instead of breaking up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. into, a few new episodes, a few repeats, a few new episodes, a few repeats, etc., 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 when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. goes on its winter break, they are going to be running all of Agent Carter, which I think is either a 6 or an 8 episode run.
Right.
And then as soon as it's over, they're going to be jumping right back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. all the way to this season's ending. I think this is a great move. It helps to create a better sense of connectivity, I think, especially since we find out that in present day, director Coulson turns out is a big fan of history. So how they're going to dovetail Agent Carter or dovetail Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. into Agent Carter, I think is going to be very interesting to watch. Plus, let's be honest, the actor who plays her, she is just dynamite. I can't say how much I'm really excited for this show.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And I think it's once again that that synergy that we've talked about that Disney Marvel has. And obviously when Disney bought Marvel and they own ABC, and that whole synergy between the TV shows and the movies and all of the pieces and parts that they're weaving together and making it all work together. It really is incredible. Unfortunately, other franchises of other comic books are not doing that.
They haven't seen the light yet.
So,
which is very
but
sad.
I think the synergy here is great, and I can't wait for Agents of Carter. Agents, the shield of what is?
Yeah. Shield's Carter. Carter's Shield.
Carter's shield. What the heck are? What? Who? Haley Atwell.
Yes, her. Haley Atwell. Thank you.
Here we go.
Her new series.
Yes,
we're all very excited about it.
Yes. Okay, now I think we're going to talk about a couple of movies. One that has been out for a while and actually is getting ready to be released on DVD, Blu-ray. It's already released digitally, and we can't wait. Also, this movie is, there's a review and another deep geeking about Guardians of the Galaxy on...
No Baggage Attached.
No Baggage Attached, which... I'm a part of. Ben's a part of.
We were both a part of that.
Crazy Joe is a part of it. And Tim
Callender, his girlfriend Jill, Trampus Whiteman.
Yes.
All of us, we were there. We were having a really big, deep geeking about Guardians of the Galaxy. But here's a little opportunity for me and Keith to simply talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. And, of course, that's all we have been talking about. We both have the soundtrack, and we've been listening to it on repeat pretty much.
Yeah, we went up to a friend's... gig here yesterday, and shout out to Brian Brown. Congratulations. And for anybody that knows, that's cool. But while we were on our way up and on the way back, we listened to the soundtrack
multiple times.
The Awesome Mix Volume 1, which was incredible. And I think that the Hooked on a Feelin' is probably the best song on the whole soundtrack, but it is so cool, and it's so neat to have that as the
that was the hook.
Song. That was the hook, yes.
That was the hook. I mean, for anybody who saw the trailer when it first came out in the theaters, and you're hearing Hooked on a Feeling.
And I said, I have to see this movie. I don't care what it's about.
Yeah. I mean, everybody had to see what this film was all about if they were using that song as its means to reel people in. And I remember reading stories about when the movie played in the theater, how a lot of the audience was actually our generation, the people who grew up with these 70s tunes. So the fact that James Gunn had the wisdom to use these wonderful songs as sort of a soundtrack and a backdrop for our lead character, Peter Quill, I thought was a brilliant move. But let's just be honest. I mean, I think this is the most fun film to come along since Star Wars did in 1977.
Absolutely. It's outstanding. It is fun. It's touching. It's dramatic. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a little drama in there. There's a little bit of everything. It's just a great film.
It is the perfect popcorn movie.
Exactly.
Without any question. I mean, we've seen it I don't know how many times in the theater, and we never got tired of it. And we don't own it on digital yet because I decided that I wanted this one very much on Blu-ray, so we don't get our copy until Tuesday, even though it's available on iTunes. I'm really having to just bite my fingers and not go ahead and download it because I'm going to be getting I'm getting on Blu-ray anyway. So
yeah, but I want to watch the film.
But I really want to watch the movie again because it is just so that doggone great. I'm just curious. I mean, for anybody who doesn't listen to No Baggage Attached, what were some of the things about that movie that you really loved?
The action was fun. I mean, it was actiony, but it wasn't over actiony, shall we say?
Oh, so it wasn't like sensory overload,
right? And the story was good of how they handled the story. The characters, it's very character driven, and I loved all of the characters. As I can't say that I have a favorite, but obviously Groot is I am Groot is one of my favorites, and I'm sure everybody's seen it. Of course, the ending.
Oh my God!
With the baby dancing Groot.
With the baby Groot.
Even if you haven't seen the film, you've seen baby dancing
Everybody
Groot.
has seen baby Groot. I mean, it's been on YouTube, I don't know how many times. Facebook. I mean, you can't escape social media without having seen baby Groot.
Yep. But there was also those touching moments, and I think it was the typical, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, with Marvel. I'm not a comic book and I'm geek, and I've said that repeatedly. So I knew nothing about Guardians of the Galaxy.
To be honest, a lot of people didn't know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy. Not the biggest title.
And the way they brought these misfits together, and this, I don't know how much Disney had input, but it was a typical Disney story of the misfits coming together and becoming a family.
I don't think Disney really had any hand in that. I think they kind of they've had the wisdom to let Marvel be sort of autonomous and do what they do best, because Marvel really hasn't had a bomb yet.
Right.
And I remember reading a little interview from James Gunn, and he said that at one point, I guess he showed an early draft of the script, because James Gunn had a hand in writing it, in writing the screenplay, and he showed an early draft to Joss Whedon, who had an enormous hit with Avengers. We all know that, and is working on Avengers 2 now. So he went to Joss to show it to him. And Joss said, I've just got one recommendation: more James Gunn.
Yeah, but that was the thing that it was the story of the misfits coming together and becoming a team, but more of a team, than a team.
Became a bit of a family.
And taking care of each other and watching each other's backs and caring for each other.
And the cast is absolutely superb. The one thing that, Chris Pratt he made such an amazing impression as Peter Quill. Star-Lord, man. I very much enjoyed him, but I think the really huge surprise for me was pro wrestler Dave Bautista as Drax.
He was, oh my God.
He was hilarious.
He was fun.
He was so much fun. And what I found amazing is, I grew up watching pro wrestling. I know who Dave Bautista was in the WWE. And when you're in professional wrestling, it's all about being totally over the top, just overemphasizing, over gesturing, over everything. I mean, you're just really over exaggerating your character. And Drax, while there are moments where Dave Bautista did that, there are moments of subtlety on his part, which I think really stand out. And I just had to take a step back and say, wow, not only was Dave Bautista a good actor, but he was just downright, appropriately funny.
They will not go over my head. I will catch them.
My reflexes are too fast. I will catch them. To me, that's funny stuff.
It was hilarious.
One of the best movies clearly, and it's hard for me to say.
Oh my gosh.
What was the best movie of this year? I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, everybody heard what we talked about with Captain America: Winter Soldier, which I thought was the greatest political intrigue film of the day.
Yep.
Then Guardians of the Galaxy comes around, and I thought it absolutely just stunned us to no end. But you know what? There's another movie that is right up there on the top of our list, and what would that be?
Big Hero 6. Oh my God.
This is another OMG film. People, you have got to see this movie.
You absolutely have to see it. You must see it. It is Disney at its best. It was incredible. I loved all of the trailers that they did. They were just hilarious. And said the first one I saw, I said, I have to see this movie. It's another one of those. I have to see this movie. I don't care what it's about. I have to see it, just because of the trailer.
And one of the hallmarks in classic Disney films, especially when they were trying to do something funny, and Pixar has done a very good job on capitalizing on this with a lot of their movies, and that is the double entendre.
Oh my
where
gosh.
you can have humor on so many different levels, so that you can have something there that will appeal to your entire family. You've got something that's kind of broadly slapstick for the kids to really get a big laugh out of it, and the parents will get a good chuckle out of it too. But then you'll turn around and you'll give something that's just slightly sophisticated, that will have maybe a hidden meaning. I mean, it's nothing inappropriate,
Right.
but something that the parents can kind of really get a good smile about and say, okay, I know what you're trying to do here, and that's clever.
And then, of course, there's the all-time favorite of everybody, the little fart jokes, that was cleverly disguised in this film.
Oh, they were brilliant.
It was just great. I mean, it's just a very, very touching and...
touching is right. I mean, there are moments where I could not hold back the tears. This is such a wonderful film. And then it turns around, and again, in pure classic, excellent Disney fashion, they can have you crying at one moment, and then without forcing it, organically tell something in the story to just make you laugh again.
Yep.
That is the essence of excellent storytelling, and that is, I think, what Disney has really excelled at for all these years.
Yes.
And so for anybody who has not seen Big Hero 6, all I got to say is, what are you waiting for?
Go see it. Okay, before we do our last little bit here, I do want to give a shout out to our favorite author,
Gini Koch.
Gini Koch. Universal Alien was just released, and that is the 10th book in her Catherine Kitty Cat Alien series. I would encourage you, if you have not started reading the Alien series, please do it. Started with Touched by an Alien.
Start with book 1.
Oh my gosh, I just finished Universal Alien. I mean, it was released on Tuesday, December 2nd, and I finished it yesterday afternoon because I was just reading in the evenings. But oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to read now, but it is an incredible ride. The whole series is just wonderful.
I mean, you've heard us talk about it with the 2 interviews that we've done with Janie. I agree with everything that you just said. These books are just the most amazing roller coaster ride imaginable.
She's also going to be at Barnes & Noble in
Scottsdale
this
on Wednesday.
This Wednesday.
This coming Wednesday.
Check her website, GiniKoch.com, and go see her.
And she is doing a book tour now.
And
so
it's a book signing, so you get to meet her.
So if you're not in the Phoenix area, if you live in other parts of the country, just check out her website and find out if she's going to be appearing at a bookstore near you. We did get to attend the book signing that she had last week at Poison Pen in Tempe, and it was a wonderful experience, and there's food.
Yes. Cake.
There's cake.
There's cake.
So
Let them eat cake.
Let them eat cake. So by all means, go give a chance to actually meet Janie. You get a really good sense as to what motivates her in terms of her characters, her plots, all the things that drive her when she's writing these stories. It's a wonderful experience. So yeah, if she's going to be in your area, check her out. You will not be disappointed.
Yep. Yes, it is that time of year.
Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho. Santa time, Christmas.
Sanitize? I'm sorry. God.
Sanitized. Yeah, no. What? Where did we go?
The toilet?
I guess we did. Anyway, it's Christmas time, and we want to talk about a couple of different things. First, we want to talk about prep and landing.
Wow. This is something that really, I don't think got a lot of push.
No, these were the Disney offerings at Christmas time, not last year, but year before,
2 years ago, actually.
2 years and 3 years ago.
Yeah.
The first Prep and Landing was incredible. It introduced us to Lanny and oh shoot,
Can't remember his other name.
Anyway,
2 elves.
Yes, 2 elves. They are the prep and landing elves. They go in and they prepare the place for Santa to come and land. And then there was the naughty and nice, naughty versus nice. The second one, and it was incredible. It's typical Disney. The animation is great, but the story is
again
the good piece.
Which really surprises me that this did not get a lot of push, because these shows, and they're only about 25 minutes long, but they're really good. The characters are strong. Their plot situations, their all the different problems they have to deal with are humorous and yet kind of believable. I mean, the characters throughout the entire film, from the other elves to some of the reindeer, are hilarious.
Yes, the reindeer. And it's just really, it's great. They talked about what the elves do and the different characters in Santa's workshop. So
yeah,
it's really kind of neat.
There's been this propensity lately to kind of show how much of a well-oiled machine Santa's elves operate as.
Lanny and Wayne.
Wayne.
How could we forget Wayne? And of course, the Santa Claus is Shepherd.
Yeah, William Shepherd.
Yes.
Perfectly voiced. And I don't know what else to say about this except that these are wonderful finds. I don't know where you can actually find these though.
They might be able to find them on ABC's website, or
yeah, it's
or
possible.
Just, you might go check ABC, because they probably will have Christmas lineup and the previous. But also check. You might want to check Amazon too.
Yeah, actually, it's not a bad bet. Check Amazon. Maybe iTunes might have something like that. Hulu Plus. You might want to check there. They might have that as well. That might be a good place to check them out.
Meant to look that up all before we started this episode, but didn't do it. Oh well. Bad prep on my part. So we're gonna land on. Oh, sorry.
No, we're
gonna land on my butt.
Yeah, we're gonna land. Go ahead.
In Toy Story, Toy Story forgot.
Yes,
that was this year's offering for the Christmas season from Disney.
Sometimes they like to do a holiday show. Last year it was a Halloween show, even though they did repeat it this year. This year they decided to go with more of a Christmas theme, and we just saw that today.
It was great. So it picks up where Bonnie has the toys. Obviously, last time the Halloween episode, Bonnie had the toys.
She inherited the toys after Toy Story 3.
Right. So she has a new toy this Christmas. It's an angel.
It's a little kitty cat angel.
Yep. And so it's kind of interesting. So I would encourage you to go to ABC's website and pick that up as well.
And of course, with the title of That Time Forgot, yes, it does sort of have a bit of a insinuation as to maybe dealing with something just a tad bit prehistoric.
Yeah.
But it was very enjoyable. And one of the things that I really love about the Toy Story films is that they will play on certain toy gags, if you will. And this little 25-minute show it certainly had no shortage of that. It was very enjoyable. It was just so much fun to watch. And one of the things that I think maybe there's a bit of a moral here, because there's a moment where this one boy named Mason he's totally caught up in a computer game. He's busy playing computer games and his toys are neglected. But then when a slight mishap occurs, I won't say how, they're finally, Molly and Mason have a chance to play with the toys again. And it's really about a child's imagination and what it can do, how it can create, and the beauty that is in the imagination of a child. So I think there's kind of maybe the hidden moral in there. So if you have a chance to watch it, by all means do so. It's a nice way to revisit old characters and all the same voices that we're familiar with. They all came back for this. It was a well worthwhile watch.
Yes. Go check it out. Probably at abc.com you can find the Toy Story That Time Forgot. Well, that should just about do it for this time at TG Geeks Webcast. Remember, you can comment on Facebook or on our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-5633. 3357 from TG Squared Studios. I am Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Cheers.